r/ass credit. What's the worst movie you've seen from start to finish? I know it just came out, but honestly Cats. It's just bad. I went with friends to laugh at how bad it was, and it was a fun time, for 30 minutes. After that it was just hard to sit through. One of my favorite pieces of trivia is that all the actors went to cat school for 2 months to learn how to act like cats except for Ian McKellen, who told them to go fuck themselves. This past weekend, my son had his birthday, and he wanted to go to a scary movie with his friends. The only movie that looked remotely scary was Gretel and Hansel. It was not scary. It was bad. It was opening night, and a grand total of about 12 people were in the theater. It was so boring, at least a quarter left before it was half over. There's a plot twist near the end. For most movies, you think wow, I didn't see that coming. Or I totally saw that coming. In this movie, you just think well, that happened. It landed like a dead salmon tossed on wet concrete. I know it's a meme at this point, but Dragon Ball Evolution is genuinely fucking awful. Even if you aren't a fan of the anime/manga, which, full disclosure, I grew up with and loved, it's just hot garbage. I only sat through the entirety of it because my friend asked me to watch it with him. I don't think I'll ever fully understand Hollywood and their reasoning for drastically changing a piece of media from its source material. At the end of the day it only had surface-level similarities. It's like, why even call it by its original title then? To pull in the original fans? They're gonna hate it the moment the trailer drops. I just don't get it. Netflix adaptation of Death Note. No joke, I could literally go 3 hours straight talking how absolutely trash that awful crappy bullshittery made only to torture everyone who is unfortunate enough to lay there soon to be burned from the sheer cringe and discomfort eyes of a movie it was. I didn't think I could feel such disgust before I saw that god-awful film never meant to be seen by man, and I still wake up at night screaming in horror because of that embarrassment to the whole human race. After I saw that I drank 10 liters of bleach in the hopes of dying, but the ghost of that horrific shit crap kept haunting me, and I don't think I'll ever get over that absolute monstrosity. Star Wars Holiday Special. God, was that awful. 90% of the movie is in Wookiee, without subtitles. Nobody likes that movie. Nobody. Even the cast hates it. George Lucas hated it. Everyone hates it and pretends it doesn't exist. Neither Mark Hamill nor Harrison Ford could finish watching the movie. Carrie Fisher requested a copy of the movie in exchange for doing commentary narration for the original trilogy so she could have something for parties, when she wanted everyone to leave. It's the absolute worst use of an artistic license in the history of mankind. Jar Jar Binks is a fucking Shakespearean icon next to anyone in that movie. Not the absolute worst, but the most predictable goes to The Rise of Skywalker. Every scene felt like the same exchange of inconvenience for the main characters, and then convenience immediately after that. The characters are as bland as rocks, there are so many plot holes it would give the moon a run for its money in terms of craters, and the twist, of Emperor Palpatine coming back, makes -3 cents. All in all, not good. Batman v Superman, while definitely not the worst movie ever, is probably number 1 on my anticipations versus result list. It's a fucking dumpster fire on every level. Batman is an idiot, Superman is a mopey Thule, Lex is just a ridiculous version of Zuckerberg. There's a plot point genuinely about piss. The overall plot is nonsensical, and the titular fight lasts about as long as a Ramones song. Then to top it off, they throw in Superman dying in a completely stupid way, only for it to be undone, with literally no fanfare, in the next movie. It's a movie trying so hard to be epic it forgets to actually do anything epic. Meet the Parents. TL, Doctor, it's basically a full-length porn for bullies. I loathed every minute of it. The guy gets his job criticized. He gets antagonized while trying to bond via a family sports game. He gets criticized about so many aspects of his life for 80 minutes of the 100-minute movie. The father treats him like a criminal suspect with subpar intelligence almost the entire time. But the absolute worst part of the entire film? His fiancée. She doesn't try to defend the man she has declared her lifelong commitment and love for. Not until he has a breakdown and leaves the house, does this uncaring piece of daddy's girl trash decide to calmly say a single sentence against her horrible father. I can only imagine the douche brothers who masturbate to this story and laugh while Ben Stiller clutches his sanity and suffers a new verbal trauma every 5 minutes. It Might Be Cube, 1997. I know this movie gets a lot of love on this site, and I will say that the core concept of the movie is interesting, but I really don't see the appeal. The acting is bad, the writing is awful, and not just the weird math and plot holes. Have the writers ever heard how a normal human has a conversation? And for a horror/thriller, it's very boring, The only tension I felt was when they were going through the one room and had to be totally silent, and I guess also when the main guy suddenly decided he wanted to try and assault the genius girl. Add to that the unforgivably offensive portrayal of Kazan, and you've got one seriously bad movie. Edit. It's been pointed out to me that the character I mentioned is not actually supposed to be a representation of an autistic person specifically, so I've changed my wording. Open Water, without a doubt. It's an absolute pass, and they even made a sequel. Part of me feels bad saying that, because it's based off a kinda tragic true story. But it's honestly just so badly filmed. It looks like the whole thing was filmed by one dude with a film camera from Walmart and the actors are awful. The entire movie is just a couple floating in open water, after being left behind by a diving tour boat. It's literally just them floating there and talking. Occasionally they'll freak out and say something touched my leg, but all you see is them floating. Then they get separated, and we never see the guy again. Then the camera pans away from the girl, still floating there, and a text screen comes up saying roughly they were never found. This is a dramatization of what may have happened. Independence Day, Resurgence. Watched it once sober and once high. BC. My friend didn't believe me when I told them how bad it was. The characters were either two-dimensional or straight up annoying. Looking at you desperate guy friend who obsessed over women on a space station instead of your job. The plot was stupid. I understood why Will Smith didn't want to come back. Hemsworth isn't the greatest actor, but this movie made him seem like the worst. The logic of the plot was so bad it was clear the writers probably wrote this while high on coke one night. The only character I sympathized with was the sassy robot Torb that showed up to warn everyone, was shocked to get shot down, then heavily implied humans are dumb before asking the humans to head up their super secret base they used to hide from the alien queens, even though the alien queens fear them for some reason that was never explained. Independence Day, Resurgence. Watched it once sober and once high. BC. My friend didn't believe me when I told them how bad it was. The characters were either two-dimensional or straight up annoying. Looking at you desperate guy friend who obsessed over women on a space station instead of your job. The plot was stupid. After Earth starring Will and Jaden Smith. It was 2 hours of watching Jaden not listen to his father in a life or death situation, and whining and crying when not following said instructions almost killed him. I think I was mostly disappointed because of the hype I'd seen about the movie. Promos and behind-the-scenes interviews prior to the movie's release discussed some deep lore that got me really excited, but I never saw it reflect in the story's plot or any footage. Apparently, everyone was about the same skin color because a few hundred years into the future, everyone is supposed to be the same skin tone because of globalization and ease of access to interracial relationships, and a linguist was supposedly hired for this movie to create an accent that carefully combined a majority of the accents of the world if they were all merged into one nation. It must not have been a particularly good linguist, because Will and Jaden ended up sounding like two people who were bad at impersonating Victorian English. Then they would hop in and out of using it, so at times, they just basically spoke a present-day American accent. Almost like the director just went, "You know what? The accent is dumb and we have 2 more hours on set today and 3 more scenes to shoot. Just talk like normal people." It was just such a bummer because I really liked Karate Kid. Jaden did a fantastic job despite being so young, and I really liked Will Smith. The movie just wasn't very good. The Swimmer, 1968. It's a full-length movie based on a short story. It's about a dude who walks through the woods into his friends' backyards, talks to them for a bit, then swims across their pool, and goes to the next house. My dad keeps it recorded on our TV as a way to get guests to leave our house. The Last Airbender. I was a big fan of the show, so when the movie came out I convinced my friends to go and see it. They were skeptical at first but I was sure they would like it. It was the Avatar after all. And then it started, and it was absolute shit. I never cringed so hard in my entire life. Every time I thought it can't get any worse the movie proved me otherwise. Worst of all, it wasn't even funny bad, it was incredibly boring and cringy, and it just kept on going. I still feel bad that I made them watch it. Battlefield Earth. I was taking a minibus from Christchurch to Dunedin and there was a TV at the front and a selection of DVDs including Battlefield Earth. The driver asked the passengers which one we should watch and I said not Battlefield Earth, it's supposed to be terrible. He thought it would be so bad it's good so put it on. God, it was dire. When it was my stop and he went to get my luggage he actually apologized and said he should have listened. The most recent Mummy movie. I was high as fuck with my brother and his roommate when we watched it and it was the biggest heap of garbage. Some people left in the middle of it, we were laughing at super unrealistic scenes. It's a joke of a movie. It's very, very awful. The latest Sherlock Holmes film with Will Ferrell. The movie started with about 20 people, but I was the only one who stuck around long enough to see the end credits. Fantastic Four, 2015 legitimately went that's it? At the end, 95% of the movie is boring uninterested dialogue, 5% boss fight. Rumor has it the director lost his shit halfway through, fired everyone and rewrote the third act/ending. This is why the movie feels like two different movies and goes from an okay superhero movie to a pile-off steaming hot garbage midway through. His behavior on this movie actually cost him a Star Wars movie as well. The live-action Woody the Woodpecker movie. Yes, it exists, and it's on Netflix. Also fuck the text-to-speech bot reading this. If you made it this far through the video, then thank you for wasting your time with us. We hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to rate and we hope to see you soon.